Hello, people of YouTube. This is Gray's Guitars. I am Steve Gray. Thank you for watching. Today we're going to be talking about Gibson, a brand I like very much, also hate very much. Kind of a love-hate relationship with Gibson, if you will. I think a lot of people have that. And the question is Gibson dying, or is Gibson slowly dying? And the answer is kind of. So if you look at the majority of the people that are purchasing Gibsons, they are hitting their 60s. So they're, mid 50s to 60s and older. And within 20 years or so, the next 20 years or so, those people aren't going to be around anymore. All of the guitar legends also are not going to be around anymore. Slash is pushing 60, Axl Rose, look at Guns N' Roses, look at Motley Crue. Van Halen has already passed away at this point in time. Even things like Blink-182, they're getting up there a little bit in age. And all of the Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, all of these old guitar heroes are going to meet their maker soon. And that's just a part of life, death is a part of life. It is what it is. And so are the boomers that are aged right around their age as well. And if Gibson doesn't change up its model, there's going to be some problems, because I really want to know how many people are spending $7,000 on a BB King Lucille Legacy. Who has an extra $7,000 in their pocket? Millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha sure as hell don't. Gen X, maybe. Boomers, sure. But the younger generation does not have $7,000 lying around to spend on a guitar, when most of the specs on this thing anyway aren't what they're looking for. And we'll go over that in a minute. But if you just look at all of the prices for these things, it's ridiculous. I look at an SG Special, and I'm like, if I go Korean, if I go Chinese, if I go Indonesian, for $1,600, I can get a hell of a lot better guitar. Sure, it's not made in the USA, and that may be a factor for some people. But at the same time, I can also go Kiesel, right there. I can go Warmoth. There are certain manufacturers that are still made in the USA that, you get a lot more for the money than you do with Gibson. And everybody also complains about Gibson quality control too. If I'm paying, $1,000 plus for a guitar, there better not be a single blemish, scratch, check mark. I don't want any neck pocket cracking. I don't want any cracks around the nut or the frets or the fret nibs. I don't, unless it's a relic, which I don't really buy relics anyway. But that's besides the point. For the price of a Gibson guitar, it's just getting too much. I don't think that many people can afford it. Those who can, would I spend $50? I would never spend $1,600 on an SG Special. Would I spend $2,700 on a 50 Standard? Possibly, because I like the way that it looks better. 70 Deluxe, maybe. 60 Standard, possibly. Les Paul Special, no. I would never buy that guitar. There's just not enough going on here to justify that kind of money for that guitar. The paint is very simplistic. The controls are very simplistic. It doesn't even have a Tune-o-matic bridge as a wraparound tailpiece, so it makes intonation even harder, which I do not like. The vibrolas, maybe I could see getting a guitar with a vibrola, but there's a lot better tremolo style systems and whammy bar systems out there. Sure, it looks cool. I would love to have a Gibson with just like the plate, but I cannot. I don't think any millennial can really justify the price of these things anymore, and that's why you're not buying them. None of these things have modern specs, besides the Les Paul Modern. That's pretty much it. Let's see here, the Modern Collection. We'll go there. And even the Modern Collection, I would argue, still doesn't have fully modern specs for what people want. So if we just pull up the Les Paul Modern here, can I flip this around or show me the back of it? Sure, there's weight relief. But do you know how many people want a belly cut on a Gibson? Do you know how many people want them to correct the neck angle so it doesn't break as bad? I mean, weight relief is fine. You know, there is a nice heel joint cutaway. No 24 frets. This one does have the push-pulls, which some people do like. But a lot of people are overweight, including myself. And a lot of guitars have belly cuts. That's why you see a lot of fat guys with Stratocasters, because there's a huge belly cut on the back. And it doesn't get in their way. It's not flat. I mean, look at that. And then let's go over to Epiphone to see what they're doing. Real quick, I'm going to go back to the modern collection here. Let's see here. Les Paul, Shop All Electric Guitars. We'll just do that again. So here's the SG Special, $1,600. I go over to the Epiphone variant. Oh, look at that, a third of the price. I mean, I can do $429 all day. I think the majority of millennials and Gen Z can afford that. Some of the fancy models, you know, the Tommy Thayer, Jerry Cantrell, the Matt Hafey, maybe not so much. The BB Singh Keel, you know, maybe not so much. But if you just look at like a standard Nancy Wilson right here, here's a 25-inch scale length. A lot of people prefer that scale length, especially for metal, which is what a lot of modern players are using guitars for. Here's a modern equivalent, and there you go. You know, all the push-pull options. Joe Bonamassa guitar, this thing has Gibson electronics in it. So if you can get an Epiphone with Gibson electronics in it already, like the 61 standard here, as well, and the 59, I don't know if they're offering that anymore. The Slash I would stay away from because it's you know, generic pickups, nothing really going on there. But this is what's keeping them alive right now. It's not Gibson. It is 100% not Gibson keeping them alive. It is Epiphone, because you're offering the same specs. Sure, you're getting different electronics. Sure, you're not getting nitrocellulose finish on most of these models. But at the same time, you know, modern specs. That's what people want. Let's look at the Prophecy series that Gibson refuses to do. Let's see here. Do we have Archtop Designer, Original Les Paul, Electric Travel, Original Modern? Do we not have it on the website anymore? Modern Design, maybe? Oh, here we go. Yeah. So you look at something like a Futura, and just, sure, there's no belly cut, but you get 24 frets, you get Fishmans, you get locking tuners. Things I never see on Gibsons that I think Gibson owners would love to have, but they went too far in the wrong direction with, you know, like 2015 to 2019 before the new takeover. And I think a lot of people would love to see something along those lines. The only time I see kind of modern spec Gibsons with like cutaways and things like that is if it's like Guitar Center or Musician Friends or Sweetwater orders some studio one-offs with more modern specs on them. Other than that, you know, I don't see... There's nothing, not a single guitar besides, like, I guess you could kind of consider the modern in the Gibson lineup that actually has the equivalent modern specs. And as I've kind of said before, and I'll reiterate again, within 20 years, if Gibson doesn't change something, if they don't do what they're doing with Epiphone to Gibson, I don't know if they're going to be around. I really don't. People are like, oh, they're such a huge company, they're not going anywhere. They did file for bankruptcy before. They can do it again. You know, people that aren't going to necessarily buy them. You know, they might have a giant surplus of Gibsons lying around. And as I said, sure, people are going to keep buying them. Obviously, if you're well off or a boomer, you can afford them. But the majority of the population can't. Then you have all these other subsidiaries like Harley Benton. And you can just get a Harley Benton for $100, mod it, and for $300, you have a extremely well-playing gigging guitar. Is it a collector guitar? No. But it's a gigging guitar. And that's what gigging musicians want. They want modern specs. They don't want the same specs that you've been spitting out since 1952. You got to change it up, or the company is going to fail over time. And that's what's going to happen. You know, I give it 10 years because in 10 years, when the boomers are hitting 70, I highly doubt they're going to be buying Gibsons anymore. They're going to be thinking about life insurance policies and spending money on their grandkids. Not, oh, let's go out and buy a $7,000 BB King Lucille Legacy to hang on my wall and look at, and I'm afraid to touch it because I spent so much damn money on it. So that's where we're going to end it. Let me know your comments, thoughts down below. My name is Steve Gray. This is Gray's Guitars. Make sure you subscribe, like, as well. And as always, have a good one.